This is the precursor to GME. Okay, so take a look at this brother, man.
What's naked short selling? There is this crack in the financial system, and the savings of Americans are being drained out of that crack. There's one economist who says, excuse me, and I mean a serious economist who says it may be tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars have been stolen through this crack. Now, what is the crack? A normal stock trade is you're buying stock from me, you give me money, and I'll give you stock. That's called settlement. Believe it or not, there's a loophole that exists in the system. And when the time comes for me to give you the stock that you bought from me, I can give you just an IOU basically for some stock. Now, you or I couldn't do this, but big hedge funds and prime brokers have ways of doing this. And all they're really giving is an IOU. And you never know that. You get your brokerage statement from Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, and it says you got the stock. Well, no stock ever came. All you got was an IOU. It happens only about 1 or 2% of the time. And the loophole was probably created for some good reasons, that you want, if somebody signs the wrong piece of paper or somebody's dog eats their certificate, you want them to be able to say, you don't want the system to freeze. But what seems to have happened is some hedge funds have figured out how to manipulate this loophole and inject hundreds of millions or even billions of these, what are in fact fake shares, into the market. Now, it creates three effects, three problems: a small, medium, and a large problem. The small problem is it's ruined corporate democracy. And there was an article by Bob Drummond in Bloomberg Markets magazine mid last year that's called The Corporate Voting Charade, where he has people on the record in the back offices of Wall Street, the transfer agents who actually count votes, that say, with quotes like, "This is positively criminal. We regularly do not have any idea who's entitled to vote and who isn't. We regularly get 2 to 3 times as many votes as there are shares." Now, as crazy as all that sounds, the New York Stock Exchange did a study on 341 elections, found overvoting in all 341. Why this is a problem is after WorldCom and Enron and such, the American government's solution was to these corporate scandals of the early 2000, 2001, 2002, was to tighten up corporate governance. Well, corporate governance, meaning boards of directors, that's based on corporate elections, which is built demonstrably on quicksand. The whole system is broken, and you can look this article up, and it's even, the SEC just 2 Tuesdays ago came out and basically said fixing this problem is going to be our work in 2008. The head of market regulation, Eric Siri, said that. So that's the small problem. Everything I just described is the small problem. It's a complete hoax. Corporate democracy is now a hoax because of this overvoting problem. If you have all these fake shares in the system and people voting the fake shares and they all come in, there aren't really, believe it or not, there aren't even any rules on which votes get thrown out and which don't. So that whole system is a charade, and that's the smallest of the three problems. The mid-sized problem is you can destroy companies using this technique. If it just really happened by random human error, you'd see these fake shares, these phantom shares scattered around the market, like peanut butter spread over a sandwich. They'd be spread evenly. Well, the SEC hired an economist named Leslie Bonney to study this, and she did this statistical analysis and saw where they're concentrated, and she says, no way this is happening by random human error. It's massive, it's endemic in the system, and it's clearly being used to manipulate. It's clearly being targeted. And how it's used to manipulate is you go after a small company, small cap, meaning 300 million, 400 million or less. You pick a biotech or a financial company or just a technology company where it's easy to create a lot of misdirection and smoke and mirrors about. You couldn't do what I'm about to describe. You couldn't do to IBM or Microsoft. You can do it to small companies. And you just flood the market with fake shares in their companies, and you can crack the market. And if you can do this while you have a couple of your shill journalists just write stories after stories banging the company, you can basically drop it to nothing. And if it's a company like a biotech, the biotech model in America has always been, angel funding, small venture rounds, a couple of venture rounds, goes public, and then it sips at the capital markets for 5, 10, 15 years as it develops drugs. Well, you can snap that life cycle. The company will collapse, and you can walk out with its market cap, and maybe you can walk out with that market cap 2 or 3 times over. So, is that going on? Well, 3 years ago, the SEC was saying this is a myth. This isn't a myth. They finally faced enough public pressure that they passed a very tepid regulation show, and it said that they were going to start disclosing the names of companies that are seeing excessive numbers of these phantom shares in their stock. And they actually said on their website, the SEC website actually said, we have to grandfather, that is, we have to forgive all the phantom shares that are already in the system because we're afraid of the volatility that might result from large pre-existing open positions. Now that's bizarre because a month or a year earlier they'd been saying this isn't going on, it's a myth, it's all wacky. And then they came out and said, well, okay, we're going to try to do something about it, but we have to forgive all that's in the system because if we don't, it's going to crack the system. I've been down this rabbit hole so long, it's hard for me to tell what normal people see. Do you see why that's contradictory? What's naked short selling? There's been a myth in the market.
See the problem? This is Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne, the CEO of OverStock, and this is a precursor to GME. So these are things so what's happening in the stock market, right? The malfeasance in the stock market, you have illegal naked shorts, right? Synthetic shares that are used to suppress the price of a stock, right? This is not an anomaly. This has been happening for a long time. People want to make it seem like, oh, well, it's CEO Adam. CEO Adam is doing it. No, CEO Adam is a victim of it, man. Let's just make that clear. CEO Adam is a victim of it, just like Patrick Byrne was a victim of it, just like Elon Musk was a victim of it, just like GameStop was a victim of it. Okay? Now, the very thing that we're a victim of puts us in a position to capitalize on it. I was able to capitalize on it in the beginning with GameStop and AMC back in the day. I was able to capitalize on it, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm still here. And now what has happened, people like myself have continued to we have continued to add to our positions. Okay, we have got an education about the stock market and how it really runs. Man, we have been educated, and I'm thankful for it.